When playing Scorn, unconventional is what springs to mind. The player must figure out everything, both the gameplay and the plot. And even though that could occasionally be frustrating, this video can be of assistance. The lore, the Scorn ending, and the game's general plot, however, are aspects of the game that don't have predetermined explanations. I'll walk you through my interpretation of the conclusion and what I took away from the game's numerous scenes and set pieces to help you understand what all of this means. The conclusion of Scorn intentionally leaves room for interpretation. However, the main theme of the finale and plot is that it illustrates the consequences of mass reproduction and duplication of a living race. The game focuses on how life's fundamental processes, birth, death, and even growing up are repeatedly repeated until we eventually vanish into oblivion, as well as the harm we inflict on ourselves during those processes, both consciously and unconsciously. In the game's last act and chapter, you play as a single piece of flesh that gives birth to a new monster while your old body is cut apart and connected to a vast network of other beings. This represents to me how life and society consume us as individuals or as a species as a whole as we become older. We start focusing more on the society we live in than on our own self and interests. As a result, we have kids because it is the norm, as evidenced by the factory-like robotic procedure you use to produce the new species. This idea of being eaten by society could have a variety of meanings, including how we connect with the outside world, desiring to satisfy others in society more than following your own desires, and working more to support society than you are able to spend time alone. Although it is never explicitly stated what this vast ecosystem in Scorn represents, there are several parallels to some of the more abusive parts of people and the society we all inhabit. After being dismembered at the game's conclusion, two people who resemble moms or guardians carry you away before you ultimately merge with the environment and decay, much like how we bury our deceased. In Scorn, everything repeats in a cycle, and the numerous faces you encounter among the creatures and surroundings throughout the game demonstrate how frequently this process of life and death has occurred. The hive mind that we see in the game's concluding chapter could also be a metaphor for how new people are shaped by the beliefs, biases, standards, and laws established by their elders. The vast network consists of people's beliefs about what is good and appropriate, as well as society's conventions and common views on what should be avoided. This would also explain why the figures engulf you and allow you to blend in with the surroundings. Throughout your voyage in the game, you were a flaw, added nothing to the environment and deviated from the paths taken by other creatures. You struggled not to give in to the dangers. You would have threatened the race's emerging hive network, thus you weren't helpful to it. As a result, you are cast aside and allowed to be consumed by the environment around you, which may parallel marginalized social groups like the homeless or those who have experienced issues like crime or drug addiction. As outcasts with nothing of value to contribute to society as a whole, they are no longer supported by society, and as a result, they no longer benefit from the sense of community that only comes from having a support system. And as we can see in our own world, they are overlooked. The creature that attaches itself to you in the early half of the game stays with you for the majority of the rest of the adventure, which is the final factor that influences how I interpret the ending. You are continually being harmed and eaten away by it, and you must refill your health in order to mend the wounds it leaves behind. It's difficult to know precisely what Ebb software meant, but when you take into account the other themes about society and existence, this creature may represent the way our lives gradually eat away at us over time. Whether it is a job that exhausts you at night and leaves you unable to achieve anything, societal perceptions of you that throw you into depression or leave you traumatized, or physical traumas we sustain over time in addition to aging naturally. It gradually eats away at your physical structure until you are left barely alive, eking out each day in order to reach the next. The damage we cause to ourselves may also be reflected in this parasite, which links itself to you. Whether it's not exercising enough, smoking, drinking, eating junk food, or simply engaging in behaviors that exacerbate unpleasant emotions, we all do things that aren't altogether healthy. Due to the fact that the parasite is technically a part of your body in this game, the harm it causes you might represent the harm we caused ourselves at those periods of our lives. This is further exacerbated by the fact that these instances of you taking damage only sometimes occur during the game. However, it does seem that the identity of the parasite may be explained with more certainty. It appears to be the persona you take on at the beginning of the game. Acts 1 and 2 result in their demise in the affection due to the liquid explosion from the tower. Due to its similar appearance and design to your identity later on, This liquid appears to be what gradually takes over your persona. Given that it is the only creature we encounter in the game, this would also make sense. The fact that our first character finds up in that scenario suggests that not many people do, and the fact that it is the only threat in Scorn's universe that isn't a common or normal foe gives some validity to the theory that our original body changed into that beast. The fact that you receive your gun back from X1-2 when he attaches himself to you is the last factor that makes me think that this is the case. Since it is the only item of its kind in the game, it almost certainly would have attached itself to you when the liquid started acting strangely on your old body. This is my view of the game's ending and the major topics that it explores. You might have your own interpretations of the repulsive animals and scenes you saw while playing, but that is a feature of Scorn's beauty. There is no single solution, and that is the story and the plot of Scorn. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.